We'll move on to our next speaker. So Dr. Dhara, Dr. Kishore Dhara will be our next speaker. Thank you.
I'm going to be different in two ways. One, I'm not a marketeer. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a technologist. I'm a solid computer science guy. So it's going to be different, and I'm going to talk a little lower, and my slides are not going to be, let me walk through it. So one of the things, the first thing I did was, when I came, I wanted to understand what marketing analytics is, because we actually built a couple of marketing products, okay, digital marketing products, one directly with our company, and we incubate and fund companies. So we actually work with them to do that. But as a former researcher, I was in Bell Labs, in our labs, I want to understand where the state of art is. If I'm a student or I'm faculty or I'm a researcher here, where is the state of art? And I want to completely, perhaps they already know, but I want to bring what computer science brings to this, what you should watch out, what you should take for granted, what you should learn. Okay? So the first, bear with me on the first two slides. It's pretty, you all probably know this, but it's just to set up my context. Okay? So as you see the top line where the market information, you get the market information right in 1910s, and as things move on, the TV and radio came, there's a broadcast, you just put ads, and next is you do some product testing, there's phone surveys, there's SQs, and all these loyalty cards that came in. You got a lot of customer data, and then eventually the e-commerce or the websites came in, and then the Google search came in, things changed, okay? And then the next big thing, right, the smartphones and all the social networking. So what I found consistent with the research and with the practitioners, even practitioners in marketing, is they were always customer focused, they're always data driven. There's nothing new here. Okay, they always believed in data. They always did their plans. They always did their marketing. They did their everything using data. So there's nothing much changed here. I hope it works. Okay, so I was trying to map on. Okay, let's see how the data, what kind of data was coming in, what kind of fields that are in parallel have been adopted by the researchers, by the practitioners here. So this could be simplistic. Please bear with me. So initially it was just statistics, then there was economics and psychology into it, and then there's whole statistics, economic, all kinds of ORs. There's software now, CRM systems came in. I wouldn't call them computer science completely. They're like software systems. They're just doing some basic things. Not much of science there. It's more of engineering. Okay. And then with not even with Google actually, with the social and the mobile, the whole thing exploded with big data, machine learning algorithms, the user-related content, marketing mix models, and security and private, all kinds of things happening. So I'm going to just focus on that, and then why I'm standing here and trying to talk to you. And hopefully, what I hope is, if this talk is interesting or not interesting, you would probably hear from a lot of computer scientists going forward. You should. At least that's, if you take one thing away from this talk, that's what I feel you should take. Okay? Hopefully I'll be successful in that, but at least I recommend that. So, well, this is the age of millennials, and there's more to mobiles and toothbrushes, and see what kind of things they might be saying. They're saying ads are not influential, value add, advice from social networks. So change is not just a ripple, change is huge. Earlier when you see that the transition from market surveys all the way, the change was very incremental. There is plans and there's models that you could build and all kinds of things you could do. The change is huge. So what kind of things have changed, and what are the new marketing challenges? So I want to bring it down, because as an algorithmist or computer science, I want to understand what should I do? What is the process I do? What do I measure? Right? So the first thing is, if I want to get somebody's attention, I want to stop the thumb. Right? So Facebook claims that there's on an average user has scrolls 300 feet of content. Right? I want to stop where my focus is. I want to stop the thumb. How do I do that? So that's my challenge now, right? So if I'm looking at tube, okay, and then this is pretty much everybody knows. I mean, the content slowly is merging into video. Video will be the content. That's what I mean. The notion is, and storytelling, and which is always on social. What does that mean? That means if you don't interact at the right time, it's gone, because the next time when I log in, there are 200 messages. My even the best message right in the top is gone. So and then the local tone based on data. So so you have to understand when you're presenting the data, you got to make sure through algorithms, through whatever it means, that the local tone is included. BuzzFeed claims that they have a series of algorithms that understands what is the right thing for this user, everything, and then the final thing they pass through is, does this have the local tone for the user I'm addressing this to? Okay, so that is extremely important if you're trying to get attention. Platform specificity. So you got to understand that the users of Twitter are different, the users of Facebook are different, the users of Instagram is different, how you present to them is different. So the platform, your content has maybe the message may be the same, but the way you deliver has to be very platform specific. Otherwise, it's not going to stop the thumb. Okay. So the new strategies for influencers. There's a lot of algorithms. I mean, ever since even before social networking, right? There is a lot of theory. There's a lot of good papers on what strong ties are, what weak ties are, and this is coming. A lot of algorithms actually took from there and then implemented that in social networks. So finding influencers in a very noisy environment, and everybody's trying to look at the same influencers, is not going to help you. So you got to find the next level of influencers. What else? Who else are they listening to? Who are not just the big guys, but what is the core groups? What are the things? I mean, you got to dig deeper into if you're going the influencers way. Okay, so if you, the reason I'm telling you is if you're in the marketing, all these things will go with computer, with some of the things that you got to look at how the algorithms are working. But you got to at high level, you got to have a plan for all these things. Whether you implement or you got a tool to implement this, you got to have a plan for these things. Okay, stop interrupting the user. Don't push things to the user. I mean, that has been said. So, like Spotify, one of the things they did was they actually, somebody mentioned Spotify I think yesterday. Yeah, Spotify is your like a Ghana of the right. So so what they did was at the end of the year, they actually made a small, I don't know how many seconds, 90 seconds, some very small, on all the songs you listened that year, and said Happy New Year. So people started sharing that across. So that's not interruption. That's meaningful content for that you personalize for that user. Okay, so that is a kind of thinking. That's a kind of understanding of things we need to. And so and there's a lot more examples and a lot more challenges which I can skip them over. So what are the changes? If you look at the changes, okay, so these are the challenges. What changed? What changed for me to bring all this, all these new technologies that I'm talking about? Why should I be aware of all these new technologies? So the first major shift was in the history. If you see the timeline, until even the Google search, after the Google search, everything was structured. Suddenly we are moving into an unstructured space. That's the biggest challenge. That's where you're bringing a lot of AI, machine learning, and deep learning into this. Okay, and then the media consumption speed and behavior that has been talked about as from yesterday. So I don't need to elaborate that. And empowered consumers. There is a two-way communication. If you look at the how. So I think even this has been talked about. So let me not. So the big technology shift that you see as you go into your jobs or you're doing digital marketing analytics is because analytics, like the previous speaker said, that's what's going to drive your success. So if you understand analytics, first you need to understand, apart from the data engineering, don't worry too much about how the massive amounts of data that whatever data bytes are coming in. That's not your problem. That's a data engineering problem. Okay, I wouldn't focus too much on that. If for this audience, I would focus on how to use, whether I'm actively using AI ML techniques or deep learning techniques, or how they are being used. So I should be aware of those things. Okay. So how does that affect marketing analytics? Everything is real time. So all the analytics that you're doing is not doing on historical data, is doing on data right now. So what's happening right now, you got to react to that. So that is a big change from the statistical modeling. Okay, there's a huge difference. Obviously, statistical modeling, somewhere I have it here. Yes, there's good theoretical insights for practitioners, but unfortunately, some of the data learning models won't give you that satisfaction. Okay, if you're a practitioner. So from outside. So and then the biggest change, one of the biggest change that you should be thinking of is the mining versus testing hypothesis. That has been changed. Okay. Typically, what happens is, so far, if you're reading, how much time do I have?
About 3 minutes.
3 minutes, I'll quick. So the biggest change that you have is when you typically you say, okay, I want to test this on my consumers. Okay, that paradigm has shifted. You're mining what the consumers are doing and then reacting to it. So there's a big difference on mining versus testing hypothesis. Think about that for a moment. That's going to change the entire mindset on how you do things. Okay, that is to me, that is one of the biggest changes that is happening, the real time and the mining versus testing hypothesis. Okay, and then the next 3 are about AI. You can read them, and one of the things that you typically, there are models that say, you have a lot more data than a complex model that's much better than. So that has been done. The final thing that on this slide, the final thing I want to say is watch the algorithm. So if you're pushing things through in the marketing, you need to understand what the algorithm is doing. Okay. For example, if you today Facebook came out, Zuckerberg came out and said they're going to change how your feed is going to be. That's a huge change. All the investment, what they're saying is, then they're going to be much more friends and family focused in your feeds. That's going to throw a lot of businesses out. Just one statement, just one algorithm. So watch the algorithm. So and these algorithms can be very subtle. So somebody talked about Netscape, right? So who is the biggest competitor of Netscape, according to them? Any guesses? Sorry, not Netscape, Netflix. Yeah, yes, I was thinking about the Albana Champagne thing. Yeah, I know, I went there. Who is the biggest competitor of Netflix? Okay, any other guesses? According to them, sleep. See the audacity there. And what did they do to that? The moment you finish something, they give you 2 seconds and then start the next. That's how they solve the problem. So you continue binge watching. That actually let people do binge watching. So they identified what the problem is. I mean, see the dimensional, how they're thinking. So always watch the algorithm. That is what automation will take away jobs. That's another theory. But algorithm is changing us right now. So watch the algorithm, and if you're a marketer, you got to understand what is happening in the algorithm. And obviously, you don't know what happened. It's more of a psychiatrist going, and he doesn't look at your mind, but he throws things at the mind and understand how the mind is working. You got to do that for the algorithm. Okay, especially if you're a marketer. Okay, so this is where this is something I got from the source there. So I just wanted, because this is a very good summary of things. So if you look at these things, all the bottom one is a structured one. As you go up, that is where the whole deep learning, the whole AI machine learning things come in. That is where you need to engage. That we have to understand. So if you're trying to get to see why we are talking about unstructured data, why we are talking about deep learning, why that's relevant to all the analytics here, that is where the analytics is happening, because we are saying it's a two-way thing now. I need to understand where the customers are coming from. I need to understand their sentiment. I need to understand what the trend analytics is. I need to understand all kinds of things. And they are not structured data. They're unstructured data. They're not precise. They're, you got to bring that. You got to bring that thinking into mind. Okay. So working with technology. Okay. that's my last slide.
Okay, all right, good. Sure, you can.
I'll just skip through.
Yeah.
So basically, one of the things that I wanted to suggest was like, so you got to understand, only one point I'll say. So typically, if I'm trying to select a tool or I'm going to work with a tool, maybe one of the things I could do is see end-to-end tools, end-to-end solutions, not just analytic frameworks. Because there's two different problems here. General analytic frameworks want to improve their algorithms, improve their things, but that doesn't give you business value from a marketing perspective. Okay, and your metrics have to be very clear, because you throw anything at analytics, it comes out with an answer, right? We all know that. We all know that. So you got to be very clear with when you're engaging. You got to be very clear with analytics. How do you get that engaging very clear? You understand the algorithm of the social networks, or whatever it is. So there's a chain here that you got to be thinking deeper, without going into too much into technology. So computation, cognitive learning is very essential at different levels. So I'm glad to have the opportunity here. I thank all the organizers for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I'm also not going to spend time now giving you a 1 minute reflection, because we are tight on time. So I would like to invite our next speaker, Ms. Vidya Venugopalan. Yeah, and if you could just bring the session slide on it, because she's just going to talk.
Always been focused on consumer insights to make decisions. So using data and using analytics is not something that came about overnight, because marketers always used insights. They always wanted to use insights, and analytics was a way of deriving those insights. What really shifted then? Right? Now, if we take the construct of analytics, it really has three fundamental pieces. The first one, of course, is access to data. Then the second piece is the structure of the data itself. And the third one is the dynamics of how data interact with each other in order to give you insights. So these really are the three fundamental factors that work its way into analytics as such. Now, what really changed almost overnight was the access to data, which with technology became available across the customer's journey. Earlier, if you were to look at it, traditionally, marketers or marketing companies access data primarily through market research, right? So they went, spoke to customers, had long interviews, collected data, and analyzed the data. The data could have existed in a quantitative format or in a qualitative format. You analyzed each separately. You understood the insights in silos, tried and put the insights together in order to make decisions. But then, with the advent of technology, what really happened is that you had an overflow of access to data, right? It even started with CRM systems coming into the business. You had your internal sales metrics, you had consumer metrics, you had CRM systems. So now you had a much broader width of data for you to work between. And then you had social media. Now, what social media did was not only could I understand what consumers felt about my brand by asking specific questions, but I could actually look at their worldview, right? And that brought a different facet of data into the entire marketing decision making. So access to data changed, access to data became quicker, access to data was available across the entire consumer's journey with the brand, access to data was available as an overlay of the consumer's worldview. And then the character of data also started changing, because in market research or in earlier ways of collecting data, you had a very, very formal structure which the data actually occupied. So you had answers to questions, right? When you had sales data, you had typical SKUs or metrics or volumes or value, right? Then you had usage data which came in the form of quantities. But then suddenly what you have is the characteristic of data, it became unpredictable. Right? You had people tweeting, you had people commenting. The comment could be a description, it could be applause, it could be completely taking the brand apart for something that they didn't do, right? It could be in the form of poetry, it could be in the form of stories. So the character or the nature of the data completely changed. Now, what do brands do with all this information that is now available with them? And that dynamics, or trying to make sense of this dynamics, is where analytics really started playing a strong role. Analytics always existed, right? What are we doing with this data today is really what has changed. And then came, of course, the age of Amazon and Netflix. I don't think we can have a conversation on analytics without talking about them, so I shall mention them as well. But Amazon and Netflix showed businesses the power that this fusing this information and making sense of this information could give in how you interact with your customers. And it is very heartening for us to see really that the traditional, so the online players are a given, right? You have access to data, they have the computational ability to be able to make sense of the data. But what really is heartening for us is to see the traditional brick and mortar companies, seeing your FMCG, seeing banks, seeing financial institutions really being able to make sense of data because of the computational ability that gives us the power to play with the dynamics and understanding the relationships between this data. Right? So what really has happened? You have the ability to manipulate, manage, and take insights from large amounts of data. Machine learning and deep learning especially have given you access to be able to almost quantitatively analyze unstructured data, which at one point in time, I don't know if you guys would ever even be exposed to it, because at one point in time, people used to do what's called content analysis, to go through reams and reams and reams of qualitative data in order to make sense of it. But they would always stay in silos because your data character was very different. Now today, because you can almost quantitatively analyze unstructured data, they get all characteristics of data are now being able to be fused to give holistic insights rather than insights that settle in silos. So I think, we've all seen examples, great examples here of how businesses have been used to, are using this kind of information to make decisions. What I want to do is take examples of how this can actually get translated into brick and mortar companies. Right? So online players are a given. They have great control and command over how they gain insights over data. Now what happens is once this data is sitting and enabled by technology, the data actually becomes democratized. So it is not data that an analyst sits and analyzes in some corner of the office and has to make a periodic, quarterly, half-yearly, annual presentation to the businesses. But technology enables this data to be democratized, which means that every business user who now has use for this data, because the data actually encompasses all walks of the consumer's journey with the brand. Therefore, every person in the organization, be it a visual merchandiser, be it a marketer, be it even the CFO, be it people in logistics, be it people in manufacturing, everyone has use for this data because there is some information about the customer that is useful to them for decision making. So once the data becomes democratized, it has the ability to sit and be used by everyone in the organization. And that is really the power of analytics, right? That is being offered today. It is not about great computation. All of that is happening in the back end, and all of that is being enabled by technology. But the ability to be able to bring it to the forefront for a lay business user to use actually means that this data, which used to be sitting in the fringes of decision making, which you also looked at as an also, right? Also this information exists. My gut tells me this, but also this information exists, so let me put it all together and make a decision, has now become something that you automatically, organically search for when you want to answer business questions, right? And this, if you think about it, has actually brought in the concepts of rapid prototyping, which used to exist where you could test things. You could test things in a small scale before actually, bringing them to scale or evolving them in a larger scale and acting on them in the market. This concept of rapid prototyping, which really did not exist in businesses like banking and finance, did not exist in businesses like retail or the traditional brick and mortar companies, is now possible, right? Because you have quick feedback, which if you can take in easily, right, absorb easily, analyze easily, and if you are able to get insights out of it, means that you do not have to invest right up front on a large scale on any marketing initiative. What you can do is invest in a small scale, read the data well, take insights from the data, quickly prototype, right? Quickly evolve, quickly change your ideas to see what is working, and have a constant motion of testing that happens in terms of any initiative that you want to take. And that truly is the power that analytics has brought, which once was purely in the domain, which Mr. Janaki Raman can validate, in the domain of online players. right, in terms of A/B testing anything before you actually launch, is something that has actually come into for traditional businesses. And that, I think, is where the future of analytics is actually making it more exciting, because it now is leveling the playing field for people, for everyone to be able to use data in a powerful manner. Right? So I think I don't want to repeat, what has already been said.
What does Cloud Cherry do?
Oh, okay. So Cloud Cherry basically is an analytics platform which tracks customer experience across the entire journey of the customer, right? And then tries to identify strategic inputs, which at each point in the journey, in terms of the feedback that the customer is giving, as well as the data that exists across all the other parts of the journey, which the business metrics actually reveal to us. Right? So it fuses the data from of business metrics as well as consumer metrics and tries to give insights at each point in the journey for the customer. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think let's just quickly, if we can get some help to rearrange the chairs. Okay. And
it seems like the analytics industry, not just marketing analytics, but all kinds of analytics industry is on a rapid growth, like all startup industries as a well-defined industry, a separate one, will have shakeout and mergers. Where do you see the shakeouts and the mergers arising? And will there be again a dominant three players as it happens in all industries? Or do you think the industry will remain highly fragmented and remain in its own different silos? What do you think?
I assume you're referring to the analytics providers of analytics, either services or solutions to the companies. I think it will follow the evolution like in any new place. There will be it starts with an emergence of many. There may be some consolidation before they become complacent, and then it will follow by the others. Again, another round of destruction and then recreation. I think in this case, in analytics in particular, as I see it now, it's kind of more in two or three buckets. One is those who provide a unique data set, someone who provides the underlying platform for analytics to happen and to perform analytics, and the others who provide insights, taking the data and the analytics together and providing insights to them. But above all, I think companies themselves need to embed it in their whole, companies need to embed it in their entire business process. And I think while Vidya was saying that the brick and mortar have the opportunity, in my mind, there the biggest challenge is nothing to do with technology, it's only about culture. The culture and change management above all determines. You may have the best data, the best platforms, but if there's no buy-in from the top or properly, then that's where it'll fail.
So one of the things I think is, if you look at analytics as structured and unstructured space, right? In the unstructured space, I think new stacks are going to come, because the incumbents have a huge advantage in this. And to replicate 20 years of Google data, or I mean, it's very hard. And it's so there's already stacks that are coming up. So I think that the stacks will be so generic. So there will be a lot of opportunity for players to come in, use the stack, and go and then build on it.
Like an app.
Absolutely.
As many apps as you
a
can.
layer around it, an app, and then do the business thing. So that is a much more rapid way of getting up to date, and also for small and medium business. Anybody can use it now.
I would first so I know there are a lot of students as well, questions from students. Oh, okay, sorry.
Sir, specifically, how can analytics benefit small or medium enterprises? We have been talking about the large enterprises, large companies and corporations. But what is the present usage of analytics for smaller businesses such as mom and pop shops, these brick and mortar companies, and the LLPs, partnerships, I mean smaller size of enterprises? I specifically want to ask that particular thing.
Okay, I can answer, but it's right to give it to Vidya because she talked about it. So I think she has more insight.
Thank you. So if you look at the fundamentals of analytics doesn't change, right? It's only the quantum of data and the extent of data that changes depending on the size of the business that you are. What has happened is, if you look at small and medium enterprises, earlier they were a little challenged in terms of being able to access data, being able to conduct surveys or conduct initiatives in order to collect data. That barrier has actually been lowered right now, and therefore small and medium enterprises actually have it easier now to be able to conduct analytics and gain consumer insights than they could before.
Follow-up question. I just want to understand, while small and medium company can do the analysis, do they have the ability to get insights on the larger insights, which a big company, they have it, what sells, what are not. They have a lot of data and tons of information. Would they be able to get insight from any common player, or able to provide those insights? While, because small company, they have only insights pertaining to their shop. They may not have the larger data, larger. Is there any service provider, anybody are going for, do you think any of these things happening?
So increasingly what we find is people access, at least people who have an online presence or an app, who know what is it that you want out of the data, identify the right metrics in order, which will help you arrive at the insight, and to be able to read the data to get the insight and make a leap of faith in order to make that insight human, so that it is able to give you a business answer. That if you're able to do that link, then the details and the specifics of how one does it are technical details, right? Some of us can learn that, some of us may not have deep knowledge of that, but to be able to draw the basic knowledge, to be able to draw this link is really important to be able to make business decisions.
Yeah, I think that's very nicely articulated, because at SunTrust Bank, we run an MS in Analytics program, and they wanted to hire graduates from our program. There were two candidates. One was super technical and probably the best candidate we thought would make it, but he didn't make it. And another girl, who wasn't technical, as much technical, but she articulated extremely well. And what the manager said is, we are more, it's more important that you are able to communicate, what is it that data is telling us, rather than showing.
Or the person with the regular academic graduation and a post-graduation in MBA or something like. So how we as an academic institute, we should adapt ourselves to address this need and also to serve the purpose of the students' skill needs accordingly. So this is open to the entire panel. I hope my question is clear. Thank you.
I think I'll let Professor Shah answer this first, and then maybe later, if anything is left, I'm going to add. Certainly, I don't want to.
No, I think practitioner insights are very important over here, because analytics have to be very relevant, and we have to make students ready, because no matter what profession you are in, right? Finance, accounting, marketing, analytics, or operations, analytics cuts across every discipline. So I think it's important that your viewpoint is taken, rather me as an educator, because my viewpoint is going to be contaminated with academia. So I would like to, I can give my viewpoint, I'd be happy to, but I think it'll be more valuable if it comes from you all. Yeah.
So it's important to have analytics as a course, because it depends on what are the student interest, they can take it further, because there are kind of the case studies, how businesses leverage analytics, and how people can look at the data and derive insights. So it's definitely it's important for any business, and people having the analytical skill definitely have a advantage over others. So I would strongly recommend having that thing, analytical course.
What we've seen is the analytics, the way it's taught currently today, is done on such clean data that when they come in the real world, the expectation little goes for a toss, because all the hype on all the glory and the sex appeal on data science, the science is small part, the data is the big part, and in the real world, the data is the messy, ugly part, which when they've done something in the college, the data is so clean, they've not had to spend time on data cleaning, just run the algorithms and all the nice clean part. But the real world is quite different. You may don't have the data, you get ugly data, so a lot of time needs to roll up your sleeves and play with the data. So that kind of awareness or exposure also would greatly help.
So my take on this is you have to evaluate what is the part of analytics that you play a role in. Okay, because there's the engineering aspect, there's the science aspect of data, there is a marketing aspect that's coming in and doing things. So if you find the right niche, the first answer is yes, you should have multiple courses, that's for sure. For undergraduate, there should be a great gradation of courses. Otherwise, even the undergraduates can't get up to. You want to teach higher level stuff, you got to break. That's a given. But I think you have to break down the word analytics. You should stop using that product term. You should find out what exactly it means to your curriculum, your faculty, your students when they go out. So they, like I said, don't teach them. If you just Google up analytics and their first programming is Python programming in analytics, and you're not going to make Python, develop Python programmers here. That's not the curriculum here. So you got to sit down and then say, what is the role of analytics? What can I teach, and what is needed when they go out? So when they put Google AdWords and whatever SEO, and then when the results come in, what are they interpreting? How are they interpreting that? Is that what is needed for the basic level courses? So you got to break it down into that level so you can actually have a curriculum. I'm talking about here in India where you don't do a lot of math in these departments. That's why I'm saying. I mean, in different countries it's different. So.
I actually just want to add on to Dr. Dana's point, because analytics has various components. It's not one single course or one single element, right? It has components of statistical knowledge. It has components of understanding business. It has components of understanding computation. It has components of being able to understand quality of data cleaning, research methodology. Right, so data analytics has various components. So if a course called data analytics is going to be taught, then I think we need to understand what are the key components that we will be able to teach in this curriculum, what is relevant for your set of students, and then build the course. And at the end of the day, it's teaching it as individual components, and as well as giving people a sense of how all these components really culminate into problem solving. Right, so I guess both those aspects would need to be addressed if it has to be a course.
Very much. We are out of time, but this has been an extremely thought-provoking and very fascinating set of presentations. Big round of applause, please, for us.
Mr. Muragavel Janki Raman. Mr. Sunil Mirani. Dr. Krishna Kishore Dhara. Ms. Vidya Venugopalan.
Thank you all.
Oh, so you're the one that broke us off.
Great presentation.
Not at all. an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Professor. Of course, I will be there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And since we teach and do research in this space, at least for me, it resonates.
If at all I ask you, based on the content that is there and based on the presentation that is made, what is it that the paper attempts to speak about or explore or let the receiver receive? So what is the takeaway?
What is your basic question?
10 minute or 10 page के इसमें what is the takeaway that you would want, we all would take away after listening to you?
One point that India is a best and preferred destination of foreign capital nowadays after 91. The world is looking towards India because the major point of India is that India has been a very, a simple country, never defaulted on any amount. This is the first credit rating of India in the minds of the world. This is a record. India never defaulted. This is the one point. Yes, it defaulted according to Mahendra Pal only in 1966 and 67 on IVRD loan for 3 months. And it was rescheduled, not default. So that is why in the eyes of the world, India has #1 credit rating. So all types of capital India receives. Just see, if we are all #1 recipient country in all types of capital. So we are utilizing all types of capital.
The question is quite different.
Yeah.
You want to ask that what is it?
So then we used to say if you want to save time, it's better use this algorithm, this software, or this process so that you can save time. But now it's not at all.
This is a problem at all. I wanted to show that here. For example, I have solved that to generate 10 million observation. So this is
that. But you see, in our social sciences, by and large, we do not go for permutation combination. Using distribution to the extent of 1 million samples. Generally, okay, because we are using structural equation modeling that I did just one. We go, in my experience, I am not gone beyond 5,000, 6,000, or only one has 10,000. And as we have shown, if we go up to 10,000, it hardly makes any difference. I'm not saying this is not a good exercise. What I am saying is try to explore in future to improve the user paper in what way this simulation and algorithm can be used to the future. Who generally go for a small sample? Of course, through simulation you can generate as many samples as possible, but generally we find results is not maturing after you have used a sample of 6 7.
But it is about getting socially elected and the increased awareness about amongst the voters about their rights. It is the duty of the political parties to help the voters in their decision making. And this has been also witnessed in the 2014 elections. Interest has increased in political brands due to a number of reasons, majorly being balance issues, electoral volatility, practicing marketing strategies, principles about political practice. Branding facilitates the political parties learning about the preferences and choices of voters and designing political statements, promotional techniques, and a party manifesto to enhance the voters' positive attitude towards political parties. And when I say brand equity in the context of politics, it's the outcome of the role of political party in the political socialization process of the community. Political parties have to focus majorly on shaping the voters' opinion and attitude to generate positive voting preferences, which increase the vote bank of the parties and eventually lead to the development of party brand equity.
You're saying the brand equity in terms of in context of politics. So do you have this from any research paper or something?
Yeah.
All right. The citation is lacking.
there are basically four major dimensions to measure brand equity. And in case of political brand equity, that's party awareness, party associations, perceived the image of the party, and party loyalty. And when I talk about political brand equity, it is as per Campbell. It's a gift that consumers may bestow or withhold. It is a complex source of strength and weakness for a candidate equally. It is acutely sensitive to competition and highly vulnerable even to small shifts in consumers' perception and behavior. There are majorly two studies done. One is Columbia study and Michigan model, and they both conclude that voting decisions are directly linked with electoral origin, social class and family traditions, and the attitude toward party is not relatively stable and it varies over the time. This is explained by
in terms of how can one actually do that. This is actually based on what I did for this project, and that's what I would suggest for the other companies. Thank you, Delhi University staff, Delhi University School of Economics. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm sure we can collaborate, connect more. I'm available on LinkedIn if you would like to connect. Thank you.
Current stage is social media, the implication and the impact of the social media on the financial. A lot of limitations that we have to face, but one major limitation is still holding even amongst the educated people who have the access to technology is that they're not ready to accept that digital social media can also be helpful for us in
Dr. H.K. Dangi to join the dignitaries. We will shortly begin with the valedictory speech. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We would request Professor Kavita Sharma to please welcome Professor Alok Rao. My apologies, it is Alok Rai. Now I would request Professor Kavita Sharma to please welcome Suresh Kumar, sir. Now I would request Dangi sir to please welcome Professor Kavita Sharma. And I would request Professor Dangi sir to please welcome Jagdish sir.
US Agriculture Department will not allow.
Why you were lost? Why you just had a lot of last minute changes? No, that's fine.
Visualize what you want. See it, feel it, believe in it. Your mind is a mental workshop. You can build anything in it, make your mental blueprint, and begin to build. Materializing the same in its true worth and envisaging the dream of a successful conference. The event has brought to its closure with visions of ultimate achievements. These 2 days have been sheer source of lucrative information floating across from and among the avant-garde scholars. The learning experience is a key takeaway for each one of us here.
The inaugural event kick-started with the presence of distinguished guests, driving the thrust in the direction of the topic of the conference, digital outreach and the future of marketing practices in India. The chief guest, Honorable Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, laid emphasis on emerging scenario and transformation of the country in terms of digital India and inclusiveness, and also discussed the immense potential that is latent in India's IT sector. He also mentioned Digital India's 2x3 philosophical concept with its dimensions.
Professor Jagdish Sheth, the keynote speaker, delivered the vital essence of marketing and transformation of unbranded to branded with multiple instances in his address to the audience. Amongst other dignitaries, we had amongst us the guests of honor, Ms. Vinita Bali and Professor Yogesh K. Tyagi, and a distinguished guest, Professor Pami Dua, who addressed the gathering with the quintessential words of inspiration in the requisite context.
The inaugural event also witnessed the release of the book titled Genes, Climate and Consumption Behavior, authored by Professor Jagdish Sheth. The session flowed into the plenary one, chaired by Professor Yogesh Upadhyay. Herein, Dr. Alok Bhardwaj talked about the shift from automation to digitization, and Dr. Raj Nair talked about how customer experience can be made excellent through digital technology.
This was followed by the special session 1, which was graced by the presence of acclaimed visionaries, Professor Jagdish Sheth and Professor Danish Shah. The session proceeded with eloquent discussions on digital technology revolution and impact of digital technology on the 4 Ps of marketing, as brought under limelight by Professor Jagdish Sheth. Transformation of marketing and its multiple aspects, while also entailing the marketing accounting revolution, were the key highlights presented by Professor Shah.
The next day began with paper presentations, followed by plenary session 2. Mr. Himanshu Arora, founder of Social Panga, talked about how social media is a medium to promote social cause, but with a deeper strategy. Mr. Anvit Gupta, the IT cell of BJP, says that in 25 years of internet has gained billion of users, how data is the new oil and where we are heading in the AI-driven world. Mr. Om Prakashwar Pandey talks about derailment of social causes, how a lot of information is created, but we can no longer differentiate the right from the wrong data.
This was followed by a special session on online marketing, some opportunities and challenges for theory and practice by Professor Arvind Rangaswamy and Mr. Pradeep Gupta, CMD of Cyber Media. Professor Arvind Rangaswamy talked about opportunities and challenges for theory and practice, the internet economy and research issues for marketing academics. Mr. Pradeep Gupta talked about issues in digital marketing and its rapidly changing landscape in respect to platforms and algorithms. This was followed by a last plenary session on the analytics, present and future, chaired by Professor Danish Shah. Mr. Janakiraman talked about related communities, segments and separate matrimony, reaching the right customer. Mr. Sunil Mirani talked about fast data, suppliers, bias, competitive advantages, explosion of data, data storage problems, analytics helping unlocking value across countries. Ms. Vidya Venugupta talked about access of data, dynamics of data, unproductive data, and change in brick and mortar structure. Mr. Kishore Dhara talked about marketing analytics, changing landscapes, spread of feed, local tone-based data, new influences, and empowering customers.
After having summarized these 2 days of extensive learning and exchange of thoughts, now we request Professor Jagdish Sheth to kindly felicitate Professor Alok Rai with a token of gratitude. Next, we would request Professor Jagdish Sheth to kindly felicitate Mr. Suresh Kumar. Now we would request Professor Kavita Sharma to kindly felicitate Mr. Jayant Shah.
A teacher is a compass that activates the magnets of curiosity, knowledge, and wisdoms in the pupil. With an excellent academic career, Dr. Alok has his specialization in the fields of marketing management, customer relationship management, and brand management. He's a trained assessor for NAICC. We would request Professor Alok Rai to kindly address the gathering with his words of inspiration.
Value of customers and designing customized company interaction to delight them so that they do not just remain with the company profitably but also be the company's ambassador. Full involvement and empowerment of employees and appropriate technology are two essentials of successful CRM. Now we'll talk of this is the 6C model, a 6C framework that starts with customer lifetime value assessment. Now there are two kinds of lifetime value assessment we talk of. One is historical and more applicable is the predictive lifetime value estimation. Now here, this PA has been going around in digital marketing space for years. We'll see the real integration of PA into digital marketing platforms, allowing for future value calculations that will lead to more powerful monetization methods. Many things we have seen, if you could leverage the information that was provided to you in the analytics session, you can relate it with this. So this is a mathematical model that I researched on, I could come through. But then a biggest limitation of this model was that this formula was that it was taking those consumptions which was discrete in nature. So if at all these could be continuous, I'm sorry there have been certain distortion in this slide, but if at all instead of summation you integrate it, okay, so you'll actually find out the nature of consumptions that are continuous in nature. And recently I'm working on algorithm prepared for this that will account for, and this algorithm will actually give you take you to a state where you just put into the basic data, and many of the companies are actually leveraging it in their KYC. They ask for KYCs. Where do they use these KYCs? These KYCs are used by companies to actually calculate your lifetime value and accordingly segment you and place you in the kind of service bracket that they want to put into. So that is, here comes the next thing, which is segmentation and profiling of the customer. Now there is a profitability matrix based on the perceived margins and past margins, and in this there are 4 possibilities. So possible segmentations like this. Accordingly, profiling of this, like for example, I conducted a study for an airline company, and you know, in Varanasi, which is a famous tourist destination and a huge trading potential place, people with enormous potential of spending, but when they go to a private bank and private bank refuse to provide them a passbook, they said, I won't give you money. So they started attempting you with maybe a 5,000 rupees investment. And if you do not get placed into the kind of requirements that they have had, like Marwadis traveling in airline, they are extremely averse of that veg and non-veg both are served together. So these are certain specific requirements. Now I don't mean to say that you immediately start responding to, but certainly you have got to qualify them into, if at all, viability and profitability comes into. Like for example,
we don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. To quote from Whitman, O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish. What good amid these, O me, O life? Answer, that you are here, that life exists, and identity. That the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?
So identify, know, and then connect. Now, once you have profiled your customers, you've got to create customization for the customers. And my next video will suffice and will restrict me from speaking much and boring you more. This video itself is self-explanatory.
We know what you're going to eat tomorrow. For over 60 years, Germany's favorite fast food restaurant has seen millions of people passing through its doors every day. But all we knew was that they ate well, but not much about their dining behavior. Our challenge was to find ways to keep diners dining, get them in more often, and grow customer love again. Our vision was to create a more personal and innovative dining experience. But we had to get to know our guests quickly. So for the first time in McDonald's history, product packaging had codes that referenced the single products purchased. We announced competitions with great prizes. Diners received a promotion code with each product, which they then entered into their Mac VIP app to take part. Now we know what a guy like Gregor likes, and we have a profile of his individual behavioral data. Within 3 months, we identified around 2 million product purchases, 1 million purchase baskets, and over 400,000 customers. These individual profiles were matched against billions of transactions. We can now match up Gregor's behavior with all the smart data we've collected and determine that a lot of people like Gregor like the same as Gregor, but they also like, for example, McFlurry. So we can be sure that Gregor will also like McFlurry. Now we know what Gregor's going to eat next, and thanks to geofencing, we can send him an individualized offer when he is 100 meters away from one of his 10 closest restaurants. Customers soon returned to the stores, and conversion rates really took off. Wow, that was some successful strategy. In under a year, we helped McDonald's Germany transform its marketing into genuine data-driven, customer-centric communication, setting the course that other global McDonald's ECRM operations now follow. And that's just the beginning.
But now, I would not recommend, if at all, any degree of customization, as I have been talking about, can be introduced. So, two things are there. Of course, the customer's profile parity with the revenue parity that he or she brings to. Then, how to do it? We have had number of sessions, and digital marketing actually is through this, but not this. So that we are going to understand. One of the speaker of the previous session was saying, and there was questions also, if at all, the conception is important or IT is. I believe Professor Sheth, we are fortunate enough to have Professor Sheth, who has been one who established the role of concept. Those are only staff functions to facilitate the kind of policies that are there, which is to be decided by marketers. Now, for computer-aided communication design is to be contemplated about, could be designed and provided for by leveraging information technology. So IT platforms offer numerous benefits, as of course information accuracy, 24/7 connection, cost optimization, customization, and user control. See if this excites you, this communication.
Shift on your face, hit your goods right.
people are gradually getting bored with this repeated scenery. And then they receive a message. Now see the message. So the effectiveness of communication, leveraging information technology. Of course, there are several popular communication technologies that might have been talked about. Very important is competency mapping, the 5th C, that is competency mapping of the people who are actually supposed to execute CRM initiatives. And one of the issues that many of us get confronted with is, of course, in retail industry especially, the number of queues, the length of the queue at the billing counter. My first PhD thesis I evaluated from an IIT was on this only. So I was quite fascinated and see the solution that has been proposed through digital introduction, digital technology.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout.
And last but not the least is, of course, ensuring consistent customer satisfaction. So you must certainly have been talked about. It is meeting of expectations, where when a customer is exposed to the marketing practices of the organization, the customer, which is made up of certain ingredients, normally responds based on the expectation, perception, continuum. And there could be 2 stages. If at all your expectation is met or exceeded, you are satisfied, otherwise you are dissatisfied, and subsequent input comes to the company, which accordingly redesign and reworks on the marketing practices. So, methodical calculation of this, of course, there are so many equations that we all use, and different companies have got different modelings and algorithms prepared for calculation of satisfaction, like one. But I've seen in many of the companies operating in India, they are more open-ended rather than, which is leading to subjective interpretation of satisfaction, and hence not specifically responsive on addressing the issues that we actually require. So this is all that I had to talk about. Sorry for exceeding by 5-7 minutes, but then you can bear with this. Thank you very much.
With this quote, I would like to welcome Mr. Suresh Kumar, the chief guest of our valedictory session. Sir is the Joint Secretary and Additional CEO of Government E-Marketplace, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. He has 17 years of government and leadership experience and strongly believes in building state capability for the use of information technology. He aspires to become a development leader and a change agent and contribute in the socio-economic development of our country. On this note, I would like to call respected sir on the dais to address the gathering.
Good evening, everyone. I take this opportunity to first of all thank the Department of Commerce, Professor Kavita Sharma ma'am. Let me first apologize that, I am actually a replacement at the last minute. So sitting there, I was trying to first figure out the names of the professors and doctors who are on the dais. So I thank all the people on the dais and who are off the dais. I would take just a few minutes to just walk you through a new initiative by the government, which is relevant to the topic which we are discussing today here. This is called Government E-Marketplace. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about this or have any experience with this. This is an initiative which was launched about a year back by the government based on a recommendation made by a group of secretaries to the Prime Minister to change the public procurement landscape in the country. You all may be knowing that a public procurement is the procurement done by the government agencies at various levels, at the national level, at the state level, at the PSU level and all. For a government organization to procure any goods or services from the market, there are various rules, guidelines, policies which are time to time set by the government. Using those guidelines, the procurements are done. It is estimated that at the national level, about 15 to 20% of the GDP is actually spent for the public procurement. This includes high value procurement, including the fighter planes and metro coaches, down to the office stationery. There are various methodologies adopted in government, but the bottom line is that all the methodology which are adopted are based on pre-independent policies and guidelines, which are manual, traditional system, wherein the underlying principle is that based on lack of trust. When you go to the market to purchase anything, the first premise is that the seller is not to be trusted. So put in all those conditionalities to ensure that he is passed through some rigorous test, quote unquote harassments, so that government gets the best. We all know that. I don't want to elaborate on what ultimately we have reached. And in government, what generally happens, there are broadly two types of people who procure. One, and majority, are the people who are not willing to procure. Because they don't want to procure because they know the pitfalls in the procurement. This is a majority. And there is a minority who are over-enthusiastic to procure. And from the seller point of view, it is for sure, for any seller who has done any transaction with the government would vouch that even when he delivers the consignment, he is not sure of his payment. He is not sure when he is going to get the payment and how much he is going to get. What are the levels of cuts that he is going to experience before he actually gets it. But government, selling to government is a big business. There are certain business houses or there are many units which are surviving only on supplying to government. Those products you may never find in the open market. It's made for the government only. And what do? They are not going to suffer loss. They are going to add on all those costs to the price. And ultimately government end up procuring items at the highest possible price. It should be logical that if in the open market you are able to get a product at a particular price, government should be getting it at the lowest, theoretically. But in reality, we know what happens. Government will be paying the highest and forget about quality or other services. This is the existing scenario. Government wanted to make a change to it. in the existing scenario, there were systems like, quotation system, rate contract system. I'm not going into the details of all those things. So government wanted to leverage the availability of digital technology, information technology, and also the e-marketplace. E-commerce is a big business today. Everybody know that about Amazon, Flipkart. I don't have to tell about that. All of you are actually maybe day in and day out breathing through that. So government wanted to leverage these two things. But then there are a lot of challenges. On the one hand, government wants to make the best use of the marketplace. However, demolishing or eliminating the existing policy landscape is not very easy. There are a lot of regulatory organizations like CBC, CAG, CBI. None of them will agree to a very liberal. So it was a big challenge. Government decided to set up an organization slightly away from government at an arm's distance, not within the government, so that the organization becomes little nimble and has the flexibility and freedom to do what it intended to do. This government e-marketplace was launched in 2016 with the objective of creating an online e-commerce marketplace for public procurement. And in 2017 April, it was launched as a pilot version. And in the last 8 months, we have done almost about 3,500 crore transaction. I will just walk you through for a few minutes, what exactly we are talking about. Now we are actually in the process of actually doing two things. One, scaling up the existing pilot platform which we have, and also building an organization to actually support that. We are doing extensive study globally. What are the global best practices which are available today? We don't likely to be launched by the end of this month. We have a large ecosystem already developed, but this is actually a fraction of what actually GEM can be. And transaction also, now it's about 3,500. This 3,000 is the data which pertaining to 31st December. Now we have already crossed about 3,500 crores. And here one more feature which I would just like to mention to all of you is that we have different modes of procurement here. Direct purchase, L1 purchase, bidding option, reverse auction, all those things are inbuilt in the portal so that the buyer, depending upon the estimated value of the product which he is going to purchase system, automates his buying options. If the financial rule says that above 50,000 you have to go for a bidding, the buyer has no option but to click the bidding button only. The other button will be concealed for him in the system automatically. And based on the transaction which we have done till date, we have deep into this new initiative by the government. I won't say that the platform today is sound and robust in the way in which we actually want. It is still developing stage. But we are very confident that in another 6 months to 1 year.
Even we had a long distance talks with Professor Jagdish. He has mentored this entire concept, and I'm thankful to my team. I'll not name them because they'll make them overconfident. Right? Because this is a time for them to learn. I just said that this is what we are planning, and you just develop a concept. The whole concept was developed and it was discussed by all of us. It was approved, and then the thing started. And as we started, there were people who started joining us. Of course, we didn't have a very big team. Just few of them. And then rest of the people we outsourced. And with the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful to all those who have lended their support on different platforms. I was of the view that we are in a time when we need to make a change. It's not that we just do our routine work. It's not just that we need to have a conference, but with a different platform. Sitting on this place, I've learned that there are many new things that we need to do. If we will not take the initiatives, future will not accept us. Somewhere we'll be left behind. And with the kind of a force we have, in terms of our scale, in terms of our capacities, we need to give a new dimension to our efforts. And believe me, this is just a beginning. This was just an experiment. It was for the first time that we have reached out for an organization, for a collaboration. So far as I know, I've never seen any such collaboration. My memory may fail, but I'm associated with this department. This is the 32nd year of my teaching experience. So my seniors may remind me, but so far as my memory goes, this is a beginning. This is just a beginning. I know that there are more capacities, more resources. We can add up more new dimensions to this. We have to innovate. We have to innovate. Otherwise, we'll be left out entirely. We have a lot of young brains with us. We have a lot of potential with us. We have to come out of our safe positions. We have to come out.
Business Director of Academy of Indian Marketing, to kindly come on the dais and deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, all of you. First of all, to all the audience who are still present in their seats, because we have exceeded the last point of tea break, and still you are here without the tea. As Dr. Alok Rai said, that it gives satisfaction when everybody is still there in the last session. So I'm still going to take some of your time. Before I proceed to vote of thanks, I want to mention one thing, that we started this journey, and now January 11 and 12, the 2 days of conference. In few minutes we will put the curtain down on this conference. So January 12 has a special mention for me for two reasons. The first reason is that when we were engaging this for this conference, Kavita told me that there is another conference hall which we are going to have. And after a few months she said that no sir, we are not going to have that conference hall, and we have another conference hall which we are going to engage. And she mentioned that this is also equally good facility. And a few days back I came to know that this is the Vivekananda Hall where we are going to have this conference. Now January 12, why it is a special day for me, for one more reason is that we were planning, Dr. Sheth is here, we were planning a conference 2 years back on January 12. And that was with Ministry of External Affairs. And it was a very high-level conference where we were to invite all the ambassadors from all over the world, Indian ambassadors and other ambassadors from other countries who are residing in India. And for that reason, we had a meeting with Mr. Jaishankar in Ministry of External Affairs. He blessed it, they were our partner, and we went to Prime Minister. And Prime Minister, when we were discussing with him, then Prime Minister suddenly said, what date you are organizing the conference? So we told him that, sir, it is January 12. So he immediately said, do you know what is January 12, why it is important? I said, no idea, sir, we have just, that date is good for us. And we have blocked the La Meridian Hotel for that, we have paid advance and everything. So January 12 is a conference we are doing. He said it is a Vivekananda Jayanti. So today is Vivekananda Jayanti, and we are sitting in Vivekananda Hall. So these are the two special occasions. If you can please rise from your seat as a tribute to Sri Vivekananda, it will be a great thing. Let's clap for him. So kindly sit down. So this is the reason that it has become a special occasion for me, that conference which we couldn't do with MEA, we did it with Department of Commerce, and we are concluding this on January 12th. So it gives me immense pleasure for that. So one journey couldn't completed, that 2 years back I'm completing today. Coming to the point that I would like to thank each one of you, first of all, that you are here and you have listened to the 2 days, you have given out 2 days of your time to this conference, and you must have enriched by the sheer knowledge which you have gained. That was
it is impossible to get all this kind of knowledge in any ordinary conference. So when Kavita is mentioning that this is a special conference and we are paying a special price, there is a reason to it. So I hope you will bear with me, and when you go back, you will always find it that you had more than the value for what you paid for. Thank you all the panelists over here, Dr. Alok Rai, Dr. Jagdish Sheth, Mr. Krishnan, Suresh Kumar, Kavita, and Dr. Dangi for being host for this conference. And for Kavita, I have special mention, as she also mentioned about me, I can mention about her. That journey begins, it doesn't end. We will have many more conferences, but yes, we believe on you and you believe in us. So it is all the confidence which we have in each other that makes every occasion a special occasion. And audience, you have confidence in us. That is why you are here and you are listening to me to this time. So thank you very much. Thank you all the panelists who came as a guest speaker. Just by the drop of name of Dr. Jagdish Sheth, everybody said yes. Nobody said no. Unfortunately, Dr. Neeru Sharma, who is the CEO of Infibeam, she couldn't come out because of some medical emergency in her family. But otherwise, the first person who said yes was Dr. Arvind Gupta. And he said that, Jayant, whatever you need from me, whatever speakers you require from me, tell me, I am always there. So this is the confidence which they have in Dr. Jagdish Sheth. So nothing can be completed without the blessing of Dr. Jagdish Sheth. He only told me that while we were partnering with Kavita, he said, do you have confidence in Kavita and this government university? I said, I don't believe in government university, but I do believe in Kavita. And if she is there, she will deliver. So thank you, Kavita, for this wonderful conference we could organize without a glitch. During the journey, there are always, bump and jump. So there are always minor bumps and minor jumps, but the highway is always good and it will take to a destination. So thank you very much, all of you. You are being here and I won't take much of your time, and thank you all. Yeah, I invite Dr. Kavita to announce the best paper awards, because it's a wonderful thing that we received 160 papers. And out of 160 papers, 120 were selected for presentation and 70 people came out to attend the conference. So that's a great thing to happen to this conference. And unfortunately, all the papers are written with good intention and everybody wants to become a hero. But there are only 3 in categories, only 1 each in the 3 tracks. And then God replied that in what form, PDF or JPG? so she could take out her anxiety by way of this job. Thank you, Kavita.
I'll add to it that it was not an original, it was sent by Professor. So you know all the process, I'll not go into that. I'll be announcing the best prize for each track. We are giving a cash prize of 15,000 rupees and for each track. So starting with the track 1, I'll announce the paper number 108. Okay, you know your paper number? All right. Shikha Sachdeva and Pavanjot Kaur. The topic is e-learning platforms for competitive examination in India, a study using AHP. It was totally an objective process. A rigorous evaluation was done, and they were a success one.
Now, there is always a middleman's cut in this chapter.
I'll take hers.
All right. Congratulations, Shikha. In the second track, social media for social causes. They have not given me a paper number. I'll first read the paper name. Paper title, Impact of Social Media Activities on Perceived Political Brand Value. Shweta Kalra and Neha Singhal. Chalo, chalo.
Congratulations. E-procurement.
Thank you. Congratulations. Track 3, paper number 107. Arvindan Chandrasekharan. Paper Decoding Chargeback Through Analytics. May I know which institute you are from?
I work for a company called Sutherland.
Oh, good, good. Corporate.
Yeah, thanks for inviting.
Yeah.
You really need a check as a corporate guy.
You can contribute back to the university.
No. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you all.
Congratulations to all the winners. As we stand on the last leg of this valedictory session, I would like to request our conference coordinator, Dr. H.K. Dangi, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Suresh Kumar, Chief Guest of the valedictory session. Professor Alok Rai, Guest of the Honor. Professor Jagdish Seth, Co-Chair of the Conference. Professor Kavita Sharma, Chair of the Conference. Mr. Jain Shah, Business Director, Academy of Indian Marketing. Esteemed colleague of the dais and friends. So again, it's an emotional moment for me also because the journey which started 1 year back in the guidance of ma'am has finally come to an end. And as I always believe that unlike in engineering school and medical school, there were proper training mechanism, on-the-job training. Medical schools have hospitals, engineering schools have factories. But in business school, these are the only event where we get the on-the-job training. And therefore, I always consider organizing such kind of event is a very good training platform, not only for us, but for the students as well. Honestly speaking, this was also a first time for me as a being a part of the conference and as a conference coordinator at such a mass and large scale event. I have an experience of conducting a couple of workshops on research methodology at Faculty of Management Studies and at Department of Commerce. So personally, there has been a lot of learning as far as this conduct of this conference is considered. I would first like to thank Academy of Indian Marketing because they have been our partner, but I would say they have been more of intellectual partner because they have given super support in terms of suggesting and in fact making sure that we got a very good quality speakers. At times we become unreasonable to them also because when we are charting the schedule and whenever I would ask Professor Kavita Sharma whose name I should suggest, for example, who should moderate the industry academia's interaction, invariably she would suggest Professor Jagdish Seth's name. And at times I ask, man, aren't we unfair with him because we are asking all through the day to speak? He said, I know, but you know, when a person goes to a movie hall, they go to watch Shah Rukh Khan's, Ranbir Kapoor is not the supporting actor. So is the case when they go to cricket stadium, they want to watch Virat Kohli to play more and more. So don't worry, people are coming there to listen to him, so they won't mind, so as we. So thank you very much, sir. And we understand that, yes, it has been a bit taxing on your part, but then we actually truly benefited because I would sincerely acknowledge the fact that otherwise inviting so many speakers outside India would have simply not possible in our structure. So I'm thankful to the Academy of Indian Marketing. I'm also thankful to government e-marketplace, because whenever we got frustrated with the purchasing processes and whenever we need to close the deal and ma'am would ask what happened, then I said, ma'am, whatever happened, I don't know whether I learned something from the conference or not, but I'll understand how to make purchases on the government e-marketplace. At least I'll get expertise in how to make purchases. And let me also acknowledge the fact that all purchases have been made on the government e-marketplace portal. So that way we have been digital in terms of the procurement and processes. We have not only been digital in terms of procurement, in fact the entire management of this conference was also digital. We created a WhatsApp group, right, and all the communications were being done through that WhatsApp group. All the meeting notices, I don't remember that we actually issued a single piece of paper to draft a notice or to plan anything. Everything was there on the WhatsApp or through emails or any other social media. So that way also we have become digital. I would be thankful to Professor Kavita Sharma, though she is the one who actually organized this conference, but then for a couple of reasons I am thankful to her, because the notion which do exist in terms of that there is some sort of disconnect between Department of Commerce and Delhi School of Economics. I hope those who are the part of Delhi University have this misnomer that the weaknesses, then whenever we mention about the why we lack administrative support, then ma'am always say that, look, at one end we may not have a very robust administrative support, but don't worry, we have young faculty, right? They are the ones who are always there for us, and these are the people who have actually made it happen. Some of them were visible, right, whom you could see roam around, they were there everywhere, but some of them are invisible. They were actually a guiding force. Personally, I have benefited from some of the invisible forces who were actually helped me, because as Mr. Jain Shah, that there was bumps, there was some ups and downs. Personally speaking, even I faced some of the ups and downs, because at times you realize that there is a saturation, but there were some invisible forces who actually helped me that this would also be a phase and it would get over. So thank you very much for those invisible forces. Now, the most important, I would say, as far as this conference goes, student volunteers. They are the amazing, they are the ones who actually made this happen. And I know that at times I was a bit harsh with them. Standing outside, then I would typically wear the teacher's hat and go inside. What are you doing here? Why don't you attend the session? I'm sorry for my behavior, but that I hope you understand there was no other option, right? So, and probably we actually departed around 10:30, 11 o'clock night yesterday after industry interaction, and morning 7 o'clock I have no option except to send a message saying then the only way to send the message is look I am reaching. So therefore they're also supposed to reach. But then they are the ones who never complain. Thank you very much, friends. You are the ones who made this conference actually successful. I understand being in the university setup, there could have been some roadblocks, some discomfort, some inconvenience. Whatever good things you have observed here, whatever plenary sessions, whatever inaugural sessions, and whatever things which you have benefited and you consider it to be good, credit goes to Professor Kavita Sharma and Academy of Indian Marketing. And whatever inconvenience that has been caused to you, I personally acknowledge, accept, and apologize for that, because sometime because of the constraint we could not have provided you to best of the services. But I hope you also understand, because I also had this notion being a delegate is a different thing, but when you come on the other side of the table, it's very, very difficult. Some of my colleagues have really helped me out. Amit is the one who was always there to help me that, look, this would happen. So thank you very much, Amit, for being there. And once again, I apologize if any of the inconvenience that has been caused. At times I would be harsh that certificates would be only available after valedictory, because I had no other choice. So I'm sorry for my behavior if in any sense I have hurt you. As far as the certificate distribution goes, now again my coordination what comes in. So we have kept certificates outside. Don't worry, they are safe with us. You just need to be there. You will be collecting your certificate. In case if you are not able to collect it, don't worry, we'll make sure that it is being provided to you. I will be failing to my duty that I will not support, I will not mention my non-teaching staff, Kamalji, Mohit, and all other the supporting staff. They have been there, right? And in fact, we have no other separate mechanism to motivate them also, because that only they have to get motivated. So we are thankful to them, and we are, last but not the least, support from the Delhi School of Economics was amazing. So I'm deliberately putting in the last because that's the most important I would consider, because Director Delhi School of Economics for making us comfortable, for helping us in providing the venue, and not only the venue, the manpower and the entire structure. Thank you very much, one and all present here. Thank you very much and wish you all the best. We would request our students volunteer to please join us on the stage for a group photograph. Student volunteer to please join us fast, quickly. And there has been an element of the high tea outside.
Wait.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.